So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Today, myself and Paddy are going to be talking to you about the Spurs game coming up at the weekend. The long-awaited Spurs game, obviously cancelled earlier on in the year due to coronavirus, and now we're in the strange situation where we play Spurs twice in the last 10 games of the season. I think it is, Paddy. So it's going to be an interesting one. But that all pales into significance in comparison to today being a really, really special day. It's somebody very special's birthday today, and Dean Smith, happy birthday.
Smith is 50 today.
He's 50 today, but he's not the only person, Paddy. You didn't think I was going to get you away with this one. Paddy's called Paddy for a reason. It's because he was born in around St. Patrick's Day, and today is also Paddy's birthday, but I don't think he's quite hit the 50 mark yet. I don't think he's quite 50 not out just yet.
Catching up to do yet. It's not a big birthday. Yeah, but I think only legends were born today, so what can we say?
Seems to be, yeah. It's a great day for Aston Villa. I think the 19th of March. It's a great day for Villa, as I say. And it's really strange because I never copped that Paddy was born the same day as Dean Smith until I opened up Twitter this morning and saw Aston Villa congratulating Dean Smith and being 50. And then I went, wait a minute, talk about serendipity. Yeah, it needs to be. Everything happens for a reason. So that means you're probably next in line to manage Villa. That's what I'm getting from this. Yeah. Gonna get my ticket requests in quickly. Can I give me a job? Can I be water boy or something? I'll take that job.
We'll sort something out, I'm sure.
But yeah, so we're going to chat today about Spurs. What we do have coming up in this as well. So myself and Paddy are going to chat for a small bit. I do have the wonderful Matt Hayes from the Tottenham Blog podcast as well. He is. I recorded with him earlier on in the week, and we're going to pop that out on this as well. Really, really interesting guy, and it was a really great chat with Matt Hayes. You can go and you can find him on any of the socials as well. You'll be able to see all his stuff there in this video too. But before we get to that, as I say, Paddy, what are your thoughts on this weekend? We've just heard the press conference from Dean Smith. And are you hopeful? I suppose the big question is, will Jack Grealish suit up for the weekend?
Given the fact that he hasn't taken part in training at this stage, I would say he won't play. And it's probably too much of a risk, bearing in mind that we've got 2 weeks off and he hasn't been included in the England squad. So for me, it's a no. I'm trying to keep the glass half full and say, look, we'll have him for the run in, give him these 2 weeks to get himself up to speed, or throw him in there for the last half an hour and then give him 2 weeks recovery and getting up to match fitness. I believe there's a match set up for Wesley over the international break as well, so that might be an opportunity for him to get 90 minutes under his belt too. So for me, he won't start. I wouldn't rule out him being on the bench with the opportunity of coming on with half an hour, 20 minutes to change the game, and that's how I'm seeing it at the moment. I'm not annoyed over it. I think it has to be done as is, as much as I'd love to have him in the team. That's what I'm reading between the lines anyway.
See, I'm the opposite here. I'm not really the opposite. That's not where I am, but I think this is just Dean Smith being Dean Smith and basically saying mind your own fucking business to everybody else, and you'll find out an hour before the game, because I'm not giving Jose Mourinho any inkling as to whether I'm going to play him. Whether he's in training or not, the fact that he's been running, to me, like realistically, look, Jack Grealish, what do you need him in training for, really? From the point of view of, we know what the game plan is, it's get it to him and let him do the things that come naturally to him.
Yeah.
Like that's Jack Grealish he isn't schemed into certain things. There's no tactical scheming goes on. It's get the ball to him, let him draw a foul, and that's probably the piece that I'm not so comfortable with is the fact that he does take quite a kicking in matches. And if this is a shin issue, that's probably where I'm coming from. My doubt is coming from here, but I would not be surprised to see him start. I'm actually more probably 60% he starts, 40% he doesn't start. That's where I'm on this one, because I do think that if he goes out of it, if he gets through this game, and then maybe has a bit of stiffness or soreness, he still has 2 weeks afterwards to rest it up.
Yeah, so possibly. But my main reason for saying he won't start is that Dean Smith has said he's back on the grass, but he hasn't trained with him.
Yeah.
So that's what's.
But would it be in a Sunday game? Would it be in a Sunday game? I think that if he and the fact that the press conference was this morning, and he could be training with them today. I think there's a bit of jiggery pokery going on there by Dean Smith, and I think it's a case of, listen, mind your own business. If there's one person I don't want to allow tactically prepare for Jack Grealish, it's Jose Mourinho, because of the fact that he is such a defensive mastermind, and he's good defensively. You have to say that about Jose.
Yeah.
It's about Jose. So I think that's probably where it is. But look, that's probably me really wanting him back more than anything else in the whole entire world, more so than having. This is me with my claret and blue glasses on. I think more so than anything else, and hopeful. But as I say, it's all up in the air really as to whether he starts. I did a Spurs, as I said, I did a Spurs piece with Matt Hayes, and they're praying above all else that Jack Grealish doesn't play, because their confidence is through the floor even after last night's defeat against Dynamo Zagreb. When I'd recorded, it was before that game, so they weren't too hopeful on that score, that they would get through. But as I say, apart from that, Paddy, do you think there's going to be any other like a tryout or midfield three we started at the start of the year, or what do you think is the scenario there? Do you know what? Let's make this even easier. I've came prepared, Paddy. Let me just share this up on the screen. For any of you watching on YouTube, let me just share this up on the screen. Look at that. We have let me get rid of those names. Can you staying used to this? Trying to get as used to this as I can. So we have our team up there. I think it's fair enough, Paddy, to say that Martinez will be in goals.
Absolutely.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I think we see Matty Cash comes back in at right back.
I think so. Yeah. The fact that he was named on the bench last week and has had another week to recover. Absolutely. Yeah.
Konza unlucky not to be named in the England squad, and Mings named in the England squad. I don't think it would be a massive surprise if either of the two of those weren't picked. And then Matty Target, another guy unlucky to be named in an England squad as well. So I think our back five are more or less set. I have provisionally put Douglas Luiz and John McGinn in there. Now, obviously, that I suppose Douglas Luiz is not set in stone to be there after anything we've seen since in the last 5-6 games. What's your views? Do you think he stays in there?
I think this is the game for Nakamba for me.
Okay.
Just basing it on how he's been deployed over the last games that he did start. It was when they've got playmakers and people that can hurt you in the middle, and could be a tendency to overrun you in the middle, that he's there. So for me, I think Nakamba will start. Would he start at two of them? Don't think so. But that could come down to who's fit further up the pitch.
Who in their midfield is going to overrun us, Paddy? If they don't have Son, if they don't have Lamela, who in the
that's the thing,
position?
Son is the big thing that you're preparing for all along. They still say he's doubtful as opposed to being out. I think, having pulled a hamstring last week, he's out.
I think he's out too.
Lamela is out. So I suppose the big question is, who do they think is going to come in? Is it Lo Celso? And
He's out too. I think
Lo
Celso is out. Yeah, I think I'm almost certain he's out too. Yeah.
Okay. But he came on last night now, so I presumed he was.
Did he? Sorry, if he came on last night, that's probably better. I just know that he wasn't. That he wasn't fit to play against Arsenal, so that's where I was coming from there.
Yeah. Like this could be a completely way off anticipation of where Jose is going to be. He's a tendency when he's had a couple of bad results to shut up shop, and I actually hope he does that at the weekend, because I think we might get something out of the game if he does. Yeah, they're lacking a bit in midfield. He'll play a similar system to us. It'd be a 4-2-3-1, I'd imagine. Mora, Ali, and another.
Ali,
with Harry Winks and Sissoko sitting, possibly. But he's another guy that you don't second guess, because he is capable of throwing a curveball in there on match day.
So that bears the question that obviously I've got to. So you don't think Luis is going to be in there? Let's put Nakamba in there for the moment, and come back to me. Okay. All right, so let's say we put Nakamba in there. Does McGinn start this game? I think he does. He's started every game this year, so I think McGinn is in there. Next question is here. So if we do play Nakamba, and you're saying we don't have Jack Grealish, I'm saying that we potentially do. If we don't have Jack Grealish, we're less likely to play 4-2-3-1. I think that's pretty fair to say now, because we have.
Yep.
So if we're going on the line that we're not playing Jack Grealish, let's change the formation to a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Do we have the opportunity here to maybe start Luis as well as McGinn?
Absolutely. I think he'll play with 2 6s and an 8 if he goes with the 4-3-3, as opposed to a 6 and an 8 and a 10. So I think that for me is how I anticipate he will line up, with both Luis, Nakamba, and McGinn in the middle.
It's interesting because we haven't seen it this year at all. So and it's something that I think that we've called out for now. Obviously, not maybe in this exact setup here. I would imagine that McGinn would be back a small bit further, but I don't hate it. I absolutely don't hate it, and I think against Spurs, we'll get to what our feelings are, what we'd accept from this game, and I think I like this. If we don't have a Jack Grealish here, I think I like this setup in the middle of midfield. I don't think we can afford to be too passive in the middle of midfield, and I think that this might suit us a small bit more. We know he loves Ross Barkley, so like the likelihood here is that Barkley is going to be in here somewhere. I don't think this is a game for Jacob Ramsey. I'm not quite sure it's a game for Sanson in here, in the middle of midfield. But we're going to move on to our two guys who are obviously going to flank Ollie Watkins. Yeah. Well, now, I think what I'd like to discuss here now is and keep going as to what we would like to see, as opposed to what we think he'll do from here on up. Because
what we'd like to see changes everything, because we'd like to see Jack playing on the left. On a 4-2-3-1. But I would imagine it's going to be like for like of what he has been doing without Jack, and it's going to be a 4-3-3. So as we see it, the three that are sitting in midfield is how I would see it being played out against a team like Spurs. And then if we're to believe what he says, but no reason not to believe it, but Bertie has had an injection and will start on the right.
Okay. So we put in Bertie in there. Bertie in there, and that kind of leaves the left to pick itself, really.
There's no and
I wouldn't, like, this is where I'm coming from here. If I was picking this team, I would play Morgan Sanson on the right, and I would play maybe, I don't know, I would try and see if Bertie can move over to that left hand side.
Yeah, well, if I was, as we're looking at it right now, if I was picking it, it'd be Bertie on the left and put Sanson on the right. But there's.
I'm not sure if I can watch El Ghazi against Spurs.
No, I
saying that he goes out and he scores a penalty in the first 5 minutes, and then he goes on to score another goal later on and has 15 shots in the game and stings the keeper's hands 10 of those 15 shots. But I prefer to be wrong on El Ghazi than to pin my hopes on him being the game changer for this game. He's just too hot and cold for me at the moment, and his performance against Newcastle, and look, it's just it's just not happening for him at the moment, and that's fine. It's okay to be a streaky player in the Premier League. He was fantastic in December, but we praised him in December. We denigrated him, we praised him, and now we're back to this again because we just have to call it as we see it. It's not that we don't like him. I'm just not sure he's the man for this game.
No, I think history tells us that he's heading for a spell on the sidelines until till he proves he's up for another run at it. So for me, it's going to be Trezeguet in that position. That you said that's how I would like to see Bertie on the left and then Sanson on the right, but we're talking about what he's actually going to do. I think it's going to be Trezeguet and Bertie.
The reason I would like to go with Sanson and Bertie is that Sanson allows you to allows Sanson to drop and to move from a bit deeper to bring us to almost a 4-2-2, 4-2-2, 4-1-4, or 4-4-1-1 situation. Bertrand Traore has played up front as well before, so I think this allows us to become a lot more compact. McGinn goes out and helps out in the left, and we know that he can get up and down that field there. He can play. He's played more on the left-hand side of the field this year as well. Louise and Nakamba sit in front of the back four, almost in the same situation that they are there. And Sanson comes in and plays that wide right player there, the wide midfielder, not so much as an attacking midfielder, the more wide right midfielder, offers a small bit of protection to Cash, but mostly offers that out ball to kind of go forward from deep if needed. And then Bertrand Traore has more or less free range to move more into the centre. And Watkins, obviously, as we know, is very comfortable playing out in the wing too, and moving out and taking it from the wing as well. I would play that. I think tactically that is a very good setup against the Spurs team, because I'm terrified of allowing them play directly through us, and I'm terrified of the fact that if they do that, and even if they go long against us, that we're just one Harry Kane shove of an arse into one of our centre halves to make our centre half go flying over their shoulders, and then Harry Kane turning and putting the ball in the back of the net, because we know he gets away with it. I don't particularly agree with it. I don't think it's a foul. It should be a free out.
Or else he's awarded a penalty.
Or else he's awarded a penalty. But it's not to have a crack of Harry Kane. It's just that it's something I could see happening. Something I can see happening, and I want us to compact that midfield as much as we can for once. And I'm okay with a 0-0 draw in this game. That's where I'm coming. That's where I'm getting at with this setup. I'm okay with a 0-0 draw. I don't for a minute think that Dean Smith sets up like this. Not a chance in hell. I think it's Louise McGinn, Ross Barkley. I think it's Bertie and El Ghazi and Watkins up front. And I think that we go with that. We go with the tried, trusted, familiar to Dean Smith, and we might win.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be El Ghazi though. I think it'll be Trezeguet.
Well, maybe Trezeguet. Yeah. Maybe Trezeguet.
I think El Ghazi's chance was last week to prove himself, and he didn't. And he had a great opportunity against a poor side, and he just didn't take it. So I think it'll be Trezeguet from the start.
Yeah, maybe so. But this is the lineup I would play. I think it's kind of more along the lines of the lineup you would play as well. I don't think Dean Smith is going to play it, but it was a bit of fun to have a look at this as how we set up. Obviously, this all becomes a moot point if Jack Grealish is in there, because if Grealish is in there, I think we might still see this. If Grealish is in there, we might still see. We've probably got more of a chance of seeing this midfield three of McGinn, Louise, and Nakamba if Grealish is in there, and then Bertrand Traore on the right hand side. So it's that to me is more plausible that it would happen. But if Grealish isn't there, we might see Barkley back in the middle of midfield as well.
I think Barkley needs Grealish in order to succeed at what he's doing. It just frees up a lot of more space for him, and it allows him to get a bit closer to Watkins, which how he played earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't see Barkley being involved from the start if we don't have Jack Grealish.
Yeah,
and as you say, Jack Grealish is in there on the left-hand side. It changes most things.
Sorry, I just realised that when I was saying that I got that mixed up. I meant if Grealish is in the team, we've more of a chance of seeing Barkley. If Grealish is out of the team, I'm less comfortable with seeing Barkley in there. Sorry, exactly. I confused. It was just as you were saying it back to me, I went, wait a minute, did I say that incorrectly? I think I said that incorrectly. Yeah. But no, that's cool. What way do you think it's going to go Saturday or Sunday? I think it's going to be a 0-0 draw. I think we're going to both Mourinho each other, and it'll be a 0-0 draw.
I'm just going to grab the bulls by the horns here and say that we are going to win 1-0, and Ollie Watkins will score very late on, and it's really going to piss Mourinho off. I just have that feeling about this game. I don't have it all the time. I just think we need a performance. I think we're going to get a performance. We're going to be defensively solid. We're going to keep it tight for 60 minutes, and then we'll push on and get the goal.
And that would be just rewards, because we didn't mention it, to Ollie Watkins for his first call up to the England squad. And
that guy must be absolutely buzzing at the moment.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to, I really envisage him having a super game again on Sunday and putting that work rate in to show. Because, 8 o'clock kickoff is a good chance we'll see Gareth Southgate at the match again. There's a whole lot of work to be done to push his way into that team. And you know what? There's 3 games there. He might get 20 minutes here or there.
I maintain they might even start him against San Marino. Like, what's to be lost? They play San Marino.
Yeah.
He could play like an absolute, like, completely different change squad for that. 3 games in the space of 2 weeks. Why not? And when San Marino, I think is smack bang in the middle. That I think that would suit him. I would be very surprised if Ollie Watkins doesn't get a game. And also, if Jack Grealish does play on Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised to see Grealish called into the squad for maybe the Poland game.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. No.
I think he might. If he plays 90 minutes on Sunday, I think it's plausible because, yeah, they've got some new players in the squad this time, or they've got some players coming back like Lingard and stuff like that, but they don't have any player like Grealish in there.
Yeah.
Whether Smith allows it happen or not, or I don't know. Maybe that might be it's pie in the sky. But
it's been said so many times, but I just think I don't know what it is. I don't believe that Southgate has full trust in Jack Grealish, and he looked for any opportunity to leave him out. So regardless of whether he plays on Sunday, I think he's made his decision now, and he's got 3 games without Jack Grealish to show that somebody else can do the same job, and that's what he wants to happen. That's just my opinion. Better news for us, not better news for
Jack Grealish himself.
England fans and Villa fans, which obviously we don't fall into one of those categories. But for me, I'd be quite happy too if he stays at home for the next 2 weeks, rehabilitates properly, and gets maybe a game in that behind closed doors friendly that Wesley is going to play in.
Absolutely.
But the most important thing is we have him here for the run in. The run in now is make or break time. I think winning on Sunday will be a bonus. I do think we're capable of snatching a 1-0 win, and then we regroup after the international break, and we go for a big time then in the run-in.
Excellent. I can't disagree with that at all. I want him there, but if we don't have him, that's absolutely fine too. I think we're going to leave it at that, guys, because I've got about a half an hour of an interview with Matt Hayes from the Tottenham Blog podcast coming up as well here. Really, really great guy, really knowledgeable young man about Spurs. Does some really, really great stuff. He's had some super guests on his own podcast as well. So I was really, really delighted to speak to him, fellow Limerick man as well. So, that seems to be the up and coming hotbed of football podcasting at the moment. But guys, next we're going to pop in this pre-recorded interview with Matt Hayes as well. So thanks very much everybody for listening, and I hope you enjoy this interview. So I'm joined by Matt Hayes from the Tottenham Blog podcast YouTube channel, and you can get him on at Matt Hayes THFC. Matt, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks so much for asking me to come on. I'm looking forward to this chat.
Brilliant. I've watched a couple. I know we were supposed to actually get together to do something on the week of the previous when we were supposed to play previously, which was obviously thrown into doubt with the coronavirus outbreak for Aston Villa at that time, and that was a pretty strange week. And I just want to kind of, I suppose, before we get into this game, I want to get your thoughts on that week, because Mourinho wasn't too happy at the fact you guys had to play Fulham. And I can't imagine he was too happy with the result afterwards. So do you think there's a small bit of bad blood maybe coming from Mourinho's side with regards to this game on Saturday?
I think there's a bit of bad blood coming from Mourinho's side and everything that happens throughout the season that we all know. We know Jose all too well at this stage. But yeah, there was... It was honestly only really coming from the club. I think as a fan base, we were kind of relieved not to see us come up against an informed Villa side, and we playing against Fulham, who of course were, and I suppose still are, fighting relegation. But yeah, Jose, I remember there's these videos going out on Instagram, not knowing like what was going to be happening, and players were upset and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, you have to be ready for things like this, especially in such a tumultuous time like this. And the result then from that game, I know you talk to 99% of Spurs fans, they will blame Jose Mourinho for that, but Mourinho doesn't like to take the blame for things. But yeah, it was a strange old week. And look, of course, the main thing is that Villa got through that sort of worrying couple of weeks at the club. But yeah, it's just this is what the season has become, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and like I suppose really that was kind of a catalyst for Aston Villa as well, because we've kind of lost a small bit of our spark and sparkle and a bit of our razzmatazz since that time. Some players have come back, namely Ross Barkley, and players of his ilk have come back, and they're finding it a small bit more difficult to kind of grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and that kind of those the swashbuckling performances that we had, even grabbing the last minute winner against Leicester, last minute winner against Wolves. I know that was just prior to Christmas, it was a late penalty, but the fact that we were pressing for goals late into games, and making chances that weren't just aimless kind of crosses into the box, that's kind of gone from Aston Villa at the moment. So I think that this week, the week that we were supposed to play Spurs, when the game was obviously halted due to coronavirus, I think it might have had a bit of a swing for Aston Villa, and it might actually, I know that you guys are you've got a couple of things that are probably weighing on your mind with regards to injuries, red cards, and so on with this game coming up the weekend. But from a Villa point of view, this is a real acid test. Throughout the course of the year, we've failed to beat the teams in and around us that we should beat, i.e. Sheffield United. We should have beaten. We lost one. We didn't take any points from that. We drew 0-0 with Newcastle. 1-0 with Newcastle the week just gone as well. We've struggled against teams we're supposed to beat. And now this is going to be the first real acid test we have, that when we come up against the team that is expected to beat us, can we find that form again? What's the Spurs outlook, I suppose, with regards to this game, taking into account injuries and the red cards that you had last week?
Yeah, the feeling around the Spurs camp is, as it has been all season, really, is kind of up and down. We went into that game against Arsenal at the weekend with 5 wins on the bounce, which, look, I know we can say they were against relatively weaker opposition with Wolfsburg and Dinamo Zagreb in the Europa League, than the likes of Palace, Burnley and Fulham in the Premier League. But it was the first kind of time since, I'd say really since we were top of the table back in November, December, where we did feel we had a bit of momentum, where we had something that we could feel we could build on. And having gone through such a bad 2 months, all of a sudden we put together a few victories, and we felt we were back in that top 4 race. And that positivity around the fan base is something that isn't often felt with under a Jose Mourinho team, and Spurs fans are coming to know that all too well. But one defeat is just such a big setback for this team, because we're always questioning the mentality. You question, Jose and his kind of reluctance to keep a structured 11 there, a structured sort of, we never really know the 11 that we are going to play. And the worry will be there going into that game on Sunday, of course, missing Lamela through the suspension he picked up in that derby game. Now, he's a player who I think splits the fan base more than any other at Tottenham, really. It's either you love him or you hate him, and he showed both sides of why people are like that in that game on Sunday. But in terms of injuries, Serge Aurier is in and out of the squad. He was on the bench in our last couple of games. I do have a feeling he'll play in the Europa League, so maybe it will be Matt Doherty for this one. But aside from that, Lo Celso probably will be out. And Heung-min Son, actually, despite going off with a hamstring injury against Arsenal, could actually feature in this one. That injury isn't as bad as first feared. But
Don't tell me that, Matt.
I have to give myself some sort of confidence as well, because I'm not looking forward to this game. But the main stat that I'd be looking at going into this one is back in December, Spurs beat Arsenal 2-0, which, what a great day that was, to go top of the Premier League table. Now, since then, we've played 8 teams in the top half of the table, and we've lost all 8 of those games. That includes Everton in the FA Cup. So looking at Villa just peeking their head out of the top half in 9th in this game, I'd be kind of worried about that. And I suppose Spurs are in a similar boat where we're not beating the teams that we should beat. So many Spurs fans will tell you about the 1-0 leads we've had in games this season against teams that we should be going out and beating 3-4-0. We had Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. We had that Fulham game that we played in place of the Villa one earlier in the season. It happened us against Wolves, where we had the chance to really kill the game off. We took a 1-0 goal lead and sat behind the ball, and we were hurt by teams who, if they're going to be pinging the ball into the box from set pieces and corners, who are going to score against us. And ultimately that is what happened. And I imagine if that is what happens at Villa Park on Sunday, look, if we get a 1-goal lead, I'll be delighted with that. But if it is the likes of, Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings, the big men really get on the ends of crosses, I think we could be in a similar situation to that. And the only thing Spurs fans would really be looking for this one is for us to just go out and play good football. Because one thing we're really talking about after that game on Sunday is the worst part isn't that we lost away to Arsenal. It's the manner of how we did lose. Players looked like they down tools after Son went off the 20th minute. There was no real desire. There was no fight. And if we went out on Sunday and you beat us by a goal or two, but we actually went out and we had a proper go, I think then the Spurs fans will be kind of appeased, because we know this isn't going to be a successful season. We know we're not going to be the team lifting any major trophy at the end of the season. Of course, we still have the chance of the League Cup and the Europa League, but it's a case of how we failed this season, if that makes any sense. And hopefully it's not an ultimate failure. Hopefully do pick up big points like that. But there's a lot riding on the next couple of games for Spurs and for Jose Mourinho as well, because a lot would argue that Jose is only still in the job because of the cup finals he's got us to.
That's a really interesting piece. There's two pieces I want to pick up on that there as well, is, the fact that, like, through the course of the Premier League, obviously until we went down, which is obviously going to be a blemish in our Premier League record. But through the course of the Premier League, from its inception, Villa and Spurs have been very, very, very much side by side. And now an 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th position finish for Spurs is seen as an ultimate failure, and you're kind of mitigating the loss of failure at the moment, like at this moment in time. Whereas I suppose we're on the rebuilding path, and for us, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Even 5th would be fantastic for Villa. Like, we would jump for joy. I can see a lot of Villa fans, if we were to get into Europe this year, Villa fans taking the week off work and going celebrating, because of where we were. The fact that we almost went into administration 2 years ago, we would have been Bolton, Bury, those teams that we actually would have been more like Bury. We would have probably gone out of existence. It was that close, and it was only a matter of hours in it, apparently. But the fact that, I suppose, where our paths deviated was Daniel Levy started running you guys with his accountant's hat on, and then we got some guy in that didn't really have a clue at all. And he started running it with his championship manager hat on, and things went askew somewhere, and things were bad. But so that's a really interesting piece, to hear that. And we want to get back into that place where 8th place is considered a poor finish for Aston Villa. But the other thing you mentioned there was that you'd be happy to get a goal and sit back. This game, as I was kind of prefacing it to one or two of my mates, are saying this game is going to hinge on if we can out Jose, because there is no better team in the league than Aston Villa at the moment than parking the bus with a 1-0 lead. You look at all our wins this year, when we win games, we get a lead early. You look at against Arsenal, you'll probably like this example more than others. We got a lead against Arsenal the first 90 seconds. Ollie Watkins deflected goal. And then all of a sudden, we sat back and we defended brilliantly. As you mentioned the two boys in the back, Ezri Konsa and Tyrone Mings, absolutely fantastic. Matty Cash is back in our lineup, gives us not just the defensive solidity, but it also allows us to be a bit more, how will I put it, adventurous on the right-hand side. With Ahmed El Mohamedi in there, we've been very much playing a 4-3-3 and having John McGinn or even Ross Barkley is playing in the middle, and we just can't get the best out of him because he doesn't have that license to play up front. When Ross Barkley plays for us, he almost plays as a second striker. He's not even an attacking midfielder. He literally stands on Watkins' toes and the two of them break either side. Mostly he goes to the left over towards Jack, and then Watkins goes around and lives at the back post. That's usually what you tend to see from Aston Villa, but it's very much going to be that. I think both teams, we could see a 0-0 draw here, next weekend, because it's going to be so pivotal who scores first, because we don't tend to win when we concede first, and we don't tend to lose when we score first. So it's going to be an intriguing chess battle, I think, more so than anything else. And saying that now, it's probably going to be a 6-6 draw.
Anything for the entertainment, honestly.
But do you think that Jose is probably? Would it be fair to say that Spurs fans, that Jose divides Spurs fans at the moment? The fact that his stubbornness and tactical in changing up his tactics and I suppose just playing his way or the highway. Do you think that's a?
Yeah. I think look, wherever Jose goes, there's always going to be that divide, because is it anti-football the way he plays, or is it a proven method of winning trophies? The stat I always bring into it is Jose Mourinho has won more trophies throughout his career than Tottenham have in their history as a football club. So I think for the fans of a club like this who haven't won a trophy since 2008, haven't won a major trophy since 1991, to see this man come in who's won everything there is to win in the game throughout the clubs he's been at, and from day one to question the methods of how he did this. And I think personally, first of all, saying that he did that in terms of came in and parked the bus straight away is an utter fabrication. I don't think that was the case, because you look at our first couple of games that he was at the club. The very first game was against West Ham at the London Stadium in November 2019, and we went 3-0 up there. And the fact that we kept attacking them and kept trying to get their goals, they got 2 goals and nearly got back into the game. Then his second game against Bournemouth, it was the exact same story. We went 3-0 up, they got 2 late goals back. And the moment for me, which was a real turning point for Jose at Spurs, because last season it wasn't, we weren't parking the bus. It wasn't typical old fashioned Jose. It was a bit of everything, kind of approaching the game based on the opposition and trying to out tactic them rather than us playing our own game and hoping that works against everyone we come up against. Whereas this season he started out playing quite attacking football. And you look at our first 2 away games of the season, we won 6-1 at Old Trafford and 5-2 at St Mary's, which you're not going to do if you are parking the bus. But the moment where it all changed for me was we played West Ham at home this season. We went 3-0 up, and I'm sure everyone remembers it, West Ham fans quite fondly, I'd say, where they came back from 3 goals down in the last 10 minutes of the game and they got a draw. And I think at that moment, Jose Mourinho realised that with the defenders we have at our disposal, because we missed out on a lot of centre-back targets in the summer, with those centre-backs we have at our disposal, we can't play that really attacking football and continue for that to be effective, because our defenders just aren't good enough. Like, it's an aging Toby Alderweireld, it's an Eric Dyer who, he could play like Paolo Maldini one day and then he could play worse in centre half than a cat the next week. We have Davinson Sanchez, who he's an athlete more than a footballer. His positioning is poor, his defensive awareness is bad, but oftentimes his strength and his pace kind of helps him recover that. And Jose realised we can't afford to play attacking football that would expose that back line. And one of those games I mentioned a bit earlier when we played Wolves at Molineux, we got that 1-goal lead and we sat back and we defended it almost from, because our goal came after 30 seconds and we defended it almost from that very moment. And Spurs fans were giving out and blaming Jose Mourinho for that lead being thrown away. Now, I blame Ben Davis, who lost his man at a corner with 5 minutes to go, and Roman Slice headed it home. But how I looked at that game was, we played, it was a back 3 that day of Ben Davis, Eric Dyer and Toby Alderweireld. If we had played a high line and we continued to attack Wolves for that game, at any point when they get the ball in the transition there, when they have Adama Traore, Pedro Neto, Fabio Silva, and I think it might have been Podence playing in there as well.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that attack is getting in behind doors and they have a free goal on Hugo Lloris. So it is down to the personnel that is in Jose Mourinho's squad. And then it comes back to this big discussion about the board that you'll always have about Spurs and not getting those targets over the line. Our chief scout was off in Milan over last summer trying to secure a deal for Milan Skriniar, and it never happened. So I think Jose Mourinho, of course, he's underachieving at Spurs. He should be doing better than he is. But the reason that is his squad isn't there. And every fan knows that Jose needs money to be successful wherever he's at. And I am a critic of the board, because in the past they've let us down. Bruno Fernandes, 6 months before United got him, we had a deal secured, but at the last minute, Daniel Levy tried to change the structure of it and Sporting Lisbon pulled out. And 2 weeks later, we nearly had Paulo Dybala, and a very similar thing happened there. But I am a firm believer that Daniel Levy appointed Jose Mourinho with the intent of giving him the money that he needed, 200, 300, 400 million, whatever it was, to go out and win trophies. But all of a sudden, we were struck by a global pandemic and that money isn't there. So a lot of Spurs fans would disagree with me on that, but I do feel as though that is the case.
That's really interesting as well, because like the narrative out there, if you were to ask me, sum up Spurs in four sentences or less. First of all, I wouldn't be able to do it because I never shut up. But the big thing would be that I would say Levy tightened the purse strings because of the new stadium. And what he wanted to do was not fall into an Arsenal situation. Sorry to keep on bringing up the arch rivals as an example, but not fall into the Arsenal situation where you needed to up the prices for tickets so that, like, to such a sky high level to pay off your stadium, and then be using that as an excuse for essentially not being able to spend on players. And I think Levy is cuter than that, because I think he sees the wood from the trees in the fact that no point having a big shiny sports car if you don't have anybody who wants to jump into it, So that's the thing there. I think that maybe I would have said from the outside looking in that he was being financially prudent for maybe 2 or 3 years to build up a buffer so that the paying off of the new stadium wouldn't affect the on-field transfer business. And also, I think I read somewhere, and you can correct me on this, but did Spurs make something of, like, did they have some sort of world record profit based on tradability? There was some mad statistic where Spurs were apparently the most profitable football club in the world last year based on something. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what it is either, but we recorded club record profits for, I think the number coming to my head is something like 156 million, but now that I say that sounds a bit low. But essentially what we did with that stadium is, I
think it was based on commercial contracts and stuff like that. So basically you guys, I think Spurs maximized the amount of money that could possibly be brought in within the pandemic more than any other club in the whole entire world last year.
It sounds like a Daniel Levy thing, to be honest, but I think then where the trouble starts is over the next couple of years as we begin to repay that stadium. It's £1 billion stadium, but 80% of that was paid for by the NFL. And now in the coming years, we're going to have to start repaying that. And there's reports at the moment of Spurs being £1.17 billion in debt, which is an incredibly concerning number. But I suppose we haven't really seen too much in the transfer window that's been affecting us. Last summer, to be fair, we did spend a considerable amount of money compared to other teams around. But yeah, I think no matter what happens with Spurs' finances, will always be a point of discussion.
You mentioned there a couple of names, Skriniar, Dybala. You mentioned that you were close to signing those guys. I mean this in the best way possible, and don't take offense. But would those two guys, because look, they're huge name players, and look, Spurs have attracted huge name players, and that's not what I'm trying to get at here. But with the relative lack of success that Spurs have had recently, yes, you got into the Champions League and so on. Do you think it's the Jose Mourinho factor that would have brought those two people to the club, or would it have been, hey, look, Spurs are there? Or because look, Levy's going to be tight with the purse strings, and that's not just saying it about Daniel Levy. I don't know whether he pays well with contracts or what the story is, but do you think the Jose Mourinho factor gets those deals over the line?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that is another reason why Levy brought Jose in. It's not just for the trophies. It's the commercial aspect of him being at the club. I was listening to actually a YouTube video a while ago. Abby Grace Summers, who is she works for Sony Sport and covers all the Tottenham games, and she was saying since Jose has come in, it's only India she works for. In India and around a lot of Asia, the interest in Spurs has doubled, tripled, almost quadrupled because of. When Jose Mourinho's there, all of a sudden people say, oh, look at Spurs, what's Jose said in his press conference today, or, oh, Spurs lost, I might watch the highlights to see what Jose was like. And there is that commercial aspect to it. But as well, he will attract big name players. And look, people know he's not the manager he was before. I always use the example, and I'm the one bringing up Arsenal now, but when Arsene Wenger came into Arsenal Football Club, everyone said that he was 10 years ahead of his time. And that's why he was so successful in the late 90s, early 2000s, because he was just ahead of the game and he had something that the rest of the managers didn't. But for me, where his biggest problem arose was the fact that he never really changed his game. So 20 years later, when Arsenal sacked him, he was 10 years behind everyone. Yeah. And I feel that there is a risk of Jose Mourinho kind of going down that same path, because you can look at that Real Madrid team in 2012, one of the best counter-attacking teams, maybe even the best counter-attacking team you've ever seen. And look, yes, things did work out for him in terms of the personnel he had there at Mesut Ozil, Angel Di Maria, and of course the big one, Cristiano Ronaldo as well. But maybe that style of play just doesn't work anymore. And we have seen football change more in a decade than it probably ever has over the last 10 years, both in terms of, kind of more competitive teams, the lower teams maybe being a bit more competitive towards the top, and the discussion of VAR, which has changed everything for me as well. So maybe Jose is a bit behind like that, and maybe that's something that is swaying these players perhaps to not choose Spurs. But in terms of getting those discussions started and actually getting players interested in the club, I think saying, come to us, we have Jose Mourinho, will still have that effect. Like, he's a big name. Until the day he dies, he'll always be a name that will attract someone in football. I think he will attract people, but maybe at the end of the day, he could be turning people off as well, which is probably makes the first part kind of pointless as well.
It's amazing what a knee slide down the touchline will do for you in a very big high-profile game, isn't it? Yeah, it really gets people in India looking in to see if you've got anything funny to say. The reason I bring that up, Matt, is because a lot of Villa fans here will be a lot of Villa fans from time to time, and you see it creeping up again. Is Dean Smith the right man to take us forward? I'm very much in the Smith in camp. Obviously, Dean Smith doesn't have that razzmatazz and high profile. I maintain that Dean Smith brings a lunchbox to Baltimore Heat with him every day, and he's, his wife makes the sandwiches, or he makes the sandwiches when he's making the sandwiches for his kids go to school and stuff like that, and he just makes an extra two. I just think he's probably drives his Renault Clio to the club, pulls it in, gets out, probably doesn't even have the fully locking mechanism on the key. So I just think he's just a decent, honest lunch pail guy is what I would describe him as. And then you've got Mourinho, who literally, Mourinho comes into the club, you gotta be ready for the cameras, because he's going to bring the circus with him, which is fine. And when you mention those names like Skriniar and Dybala and stuff like that, I don't think Villa are going to be in a position over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years to be able to sign those guys. But I don't think it's going to be because of Dean Smith, if that makes sense. And it's just interesting to see the acceleration of of the stature of a club, I suppose, when you do bring in an internationally recognized manager like that. But so that's kind of where the question was coming from. I still think we will sign some pretty decent players, because we do have a very respected director of football now in Johan Lang, and we do have, obviously, John Terry is going to be there. It's nice to be able to wheel him out every so often, and Craig Shakespeare is pretty respected in and around the Premier League. And look, Dean Smith is getting a lot of plaudits for the way Villa have played this year and the change in formations that he's made. So it'd be interesting to see where our transfer strategy goes, going forward, where we actually take it, and if the likes of Dybala are ever going to be tempted to come to Birmingham as opposed to London, because there is that factor there as well, I suppose.
Might take a bit of money to convince them, probably.
Look, there's going to be a new high-speed train line that's actually cutting through Bodymoor Heath, where our training ground is. So,
Okay.
I think apparently you'll be able to be up and down from London in something like 45 minutes. So, we're getting more and more attractive by the day. But judging by what you said at the start, it would be fair to say that you'd be hopeful but cautious, I suppose, of this game coming up, even without, like, if Son doesn't make the team, because, like, we didn't mention the elephant in the room. Villa are most likely going to have Jack Grealish back.
Oh, that's one thing I didn't want to hear. Look, Son is possibly the thing that decides this game for me, because, look, Harry Kane is our best player, and I don't think anyone will tell you any differently. 16 goals in the league, 13 assists, something like 42 goal contributions in his last 39 games, something ridiculous like that. But without Heung-min Son, Kane is nothing. And I don't say that lightly, because I love Kane to absolute bits, and I do think Son may leave Spurs this summer, which is a big concern going into next season. But without Son, our team looks like there's absolutely no creativity whatsoever. And it's probably going to show the effect that Son has in terms of, if you're playing against Spurs and it's one of Son or one of Kane playing, that's all you have to worry about, because our other players aren't really going to score any goals. But all of a sudden, when the two of them are there, your attention is a bit drawn to one or the other. And maybe then when Son is, dragging away a right back or kind of making those runs in behind the lines, which is taking the attention of the centre back so Kane can drop deep, all of a sudden he's an extra half yard to do what he does. But without Son there, I think Kane is nullified quite a bit. And I'd be really concerned if Son didn't make this game, that Villa could, if they did try and take the game to Spurs early on, that they could probably take it away from us just as quickly, because on the counter-attack, again, without Son, there's not really much that we do have to offer. We're great going forward. We're great getting into those attacking positions, but Lucas isn't going to put the ball in the back of the net every chance he gets. Same with Lamela, same with Bergwijn. So I think without Son, I would probably lean towards a Villa will in this game. And look, I'd never, the last 2-3 months before that, I'd never ever predicted a game against Spurs. I just wouldn't do it. Like, we could be playing our under-18s team against Barcelona, and I would have said, no, I think Dane Scarlett could pop up with a goal or two. But I've just learned that there's no point in lying anymore. It's time to be realistic. And I do think without Son, Villa do probably edge this one. But with Son in the team for Spurs, it could be a very, very different story. And it just depends on what Spurs show up, because, I would have told you the best Spurs in the world will probably show up against Arsenal on Sunday, but it was one of the worst performances we've actually seen from Spurs this season. So without Son, Villa win. With Son, I think Spurs may edge it.
You say about your under-18s playing against Barcelona. Yeah, it's about like our under-18s going out to play against Liverpool in the cup. Oh, wait, actually, that did happen. Yeah. And we did go 1-0 up. We did nearly win it, with Louis Barry's goal there.
Oh, what a great moment that was.
Superb. Yeah, absolutely superb. And he's somebody that we're really, really hoping can kick on. And we've got a great group of young fellas at the moment, actually. And a couple of them might even be on the bench. We've started to bleed a couple of them in on the bench recently. Full-back called Kane Hayden Kessler, a tricky winger that we've just signed that was on the radar of Leipzig, Dortmund, quite a number of teams in Jadon Philogene Bedes, and a couple of more, as I say, Louis Barry, Carney Chukwuemeka. I butchered that, but it's Carney we usually just call him. But look, yeah, so just in case you see any of those names on the bench, they may not get a game, but they are viable, products of this underage system that we have going, which is always good to see. Like you said there as well, I think a lot hinges on Jack Grealish for Aston Villa here. We're not a one-man team, but we're significantly better with him in the team, if that makes sense. So it's very difficult when you have a game plan that's predicated around one of the best attacking players in the Premier League on form this year. And when he's out of the team, and realistically, like our right hand side, especially when we've got Trezeguet in it, our midfield is built around this year around get the ball to Jack Grealish as quick as physically possible, and then become resolute, let teams play through our middle, but defend 15 yards outside our penalty area, push teams wide and get them to cross the ball in, and hope that Mings, Konza can get their head on it, and Douglas Luiz stands in the D at the edge of the area, and he stops anything from there. Last year, what we tried to do is we tried to match up and play almost cut the field down in half, play McGinn one side of the field to basically just run around all over the place on the right-hand side. Douglas Luiz stayed central, and Conor Horan then stayed on the other side. And while we were passive through midfield, what we found out, what ended up happening was Horan and McGinn were too far forward. So what we've done now is we've condensed it down. We almost play a 4-2-3. Well, we do play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-1-4-1. And we're best when we do play those, when we start to transition through the three stages of the field. But more recently, without Jack Grealish, as I mentioned, we've been playing a 4-3-3. Doesn't suit Ross Barkley. It's meant that Dean Smith has had to tinker with this midfield, bringing in Nakamba, who's been absolutely brilliant whenever he's come in, but you're losing your creative aspect there. Bringing in Morgan Sanson has come in. He's looked lively, he has had a small bit of a twinge or an injury. So we've just been kind of unlucky. We can't really figure out our midfield when Jack Grealish isn't in the team. So if he's back in there, we can go back to the 4-1-4-1 formation or the 4-2-3-1, whichever way you want to look at it. We're a completely different beast, and we're a lot better attacking wise, because, as I say, it's like, Jack Grealish, and you look at any of his statistical breakdowns, he's up there with Kevin De Bruyne this year for what he means to this team. So if he's back in the team, our odds would be significantly strengthened, I think. But if he's not in the team, I think we go out and we play against Spurs. We play for a draw. And I think we would be capable of getting it without Son in the team. I don't know whether we score. Ollie Watkins is fantastic. I think Ollie Watkins will be a dark horse to go to the Euros because of the work he does. I think Gareth Southgate will just see this guy's is a guy we could bring on for the last 15, 20 minutes of games if we're leading, and he'll run himself into the ground. He's a difficult proposition for Dyer and for Alderweireld. I actually nearly would prefer if they don't play Davison Sanchez, which they probably will because of his athleticism, to stick with Ollie Watkins. But I'm not a fan of Dyer. I particularly don't rate him at centre half. Even if he was pushed into a defensive midfield position, you might get away with it there. But that's maybe where we come up with something, a moment of brilliance from Ollie Watkins. But it's going to be really interesting. I think both of us will probably have a completely different opinion when we see the team sheets an hour before the game. That's the one gas thing about doing previews, So it's
always
it's one of those things. Matt, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for popping on today. We're pre-recording this on St. Patrick's Day, so we're taking time out of our busy. So it's a busy day today of sitting downstairs grumbling about not being able to go to the pub. That's what I'm doing most of my day today.
Sounds about right, yeah.
So thanks a million for taking the time, Matt. Do you want to give a plug to anything there that you've got going on over the next few days on your own channel? Because I know a lot of the guys that watch this and listen to the podcast will check out other teams' podcasts to get the lowdown prior to games.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. My YouTube channel is Matt Hayes Tottenham Blog, and Neil will be on Friday for a preview for the game. There will be a bit of talk about the Thursday's Europa League game as well, but it'll be mainly looking at the Villa game. And as well, I do live watch-alongs for the game. So if Villa win and you want to see some Spurs fans cry, head over to my channel and you'll be bound to get some good entertainment there. And Twitter as well as at Matt Hayes THFC. But thank you very much for having me on today. Really appreciate it.
I've tied at the idea of doing watch-alongs, but my biggest thing is I'll be here and I'll forget that I'm watching the game. I start picking my nose or something stupid like that before you know it. Then everybody is giving out to me online. But might try it. Yeah, I might try it sometime. I might try a watch along. It might be a bit of fun. Matt, thank you so much. As I said, best of luck to Spurs for the season after Saturday, as we always say. But thanks a million for popping on, and keep doing the great stuff on your channel because it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, and as I say, may the best team win.
Fingers crossed. Cheers.